for any for Hanum Ghana Politics Avenue. So, if I show be as Safi and Robert Jumedi, so I like it, share, subscribe to the channel on the Senate political trending news at Echo Ebabian, Ghana Politics Avenue. So, I depend on Bremo, Nabedra for, and then the T4. For and lawyer Martin Kepbu Abba Bekasa, Wabekan Sembebre, a petition crowd, a Chief Justice, Baffo Bonino. Wababa pansam a church in Sambia Elcoso and an angel for OSP or too much movie say if there is a fight against corruption, there is corruption. I know HS or Chim watching BMC call for a OSP and I say Office of the Special Prosecutor no call for or no or the omoto red notice in Nano or no more as I canana or no more as I intina all forward the case in Adia Coma a Attorney General Cran and why any no such movie say DNT and a Ken Ofori Atta a files no Attorney General Ebusai or Mope edi almost getting to 2 to 3 months not on to meet crown emfa ne hon krata and the documents no Ken Ofori Atta who document
the exercise of the authority.
Yes.
Will the OSP seeking authorization from the special that's the Attorney General in any way undermine the efficiency and the impact of the office?
I don't see because listen, Attorney General has said it publicly that if Kise Jabe applies for it, he will give. But right now, our major problem, you see, we are losing focus. It's not just the authorization. What we should be more interested, the reason these fights are ongoing is that he himself is promoting corruption through the various things.
That's what for
I've
you
already given reason. Yeah, that's my interpretation.
As I say,
yeah, you can disassociate yourself. And TV tray, I know TV. But I'm saying that Ofori he's like allowing Ofori to run away. He's like Jiman sitting in parliament, not facing court, etc. He said Jabin is promoting
but I'm saying that.
So that is what is fueling all of this.
But I asked a question, and you are saying that you, with the seeking authorization from the Attorney General, is not going to in any way. That's not the issue.
It's not the issue.
That's at the heart of what we
it's just playing out. That's the surface, because the Attorney General, I can show you, he's told lawyers publicly that he will issue it pro tanto the moment he says there's a request for it. The real fight is not just about the authorization. The real fight we are confronted with is a partisan OSP who is doing things to favor himself and his friends. Promoting corruption, that is what is really fueling this thing. Where we are is a joke. The Supreme Court asked for throwing out that office. It will never happen. The office is here to stay. The big problem is how we didn't put in rules to keep the special prosecutor himself in check. We just presume that if you take anybody to come and fight corruption, ipso facto, the person will stop his personal weaknesses. All his personal weaknesses will suddenly disappear and he'll become an angel. That is where the fight is. As for authorization, that is not the real fight. Because now the hard lesson, as I say, is that you are giving authorization to somebody who is also aiding corruption.
That is for you to prove, and I keep saying that all the time.
There is publicly available evidence. He said Jabin said he couldn't shout Julo.
But that's not for him to shout.
Julo, the one that got me to be. Oh, Mr. Okasi, let me complete this sentence. Remember, I kept saying that he said Jabin couldn't shout Julo, a view. For us to arrest Ofori Atta that he worked for, Ofori Atta that is a relation to Gabi and President Akufo-Addo, etc. And so we are saying that is corruption in itself, etc. And you are saying that it's just authorization. We are learning the hardest lesson that the fact that you put somebody in charge of corruption doesn't mean that that person himself is immune from corruption. That is where the real fight is. Martin Kepbu,
I'll start off with you on this. These demands by the civil society organizations, as I have just outlined them, is it one that you align with, the concerns they have raised?
Look, what I would say is that in a democracy, conversations like this are welcome, because usually it's in the conversations that they yield better results. So I may not directly agree with them, but I agree that they should speak, okay? Even though some appear to be conflicted, because some are actually partners of the OSP. So it means that, like, if you go to the website of the OSP, you see some of them there as official partners. So when they speak, it means that that's the OSP speaking, etc. So there are the whole area, you see, the whole corruption fight right now it's in a bit of a jumble, disarray, because the deeper you get into the arena, then the more you see that even in the fight against corruption, there is corruption.
In the fight against corruption, there is corruption.
There are people talking loud here and there. A lot of them have had relations employed by Kisi Jabin in the OSP, etc. So they are not honest brokers. They are not honest brokers. You see, so it's a very complex news. So you as you fight, then you see that, oh, okay, that's why they say everybody is conflicted in certain ways. Yeah. So that area that we are fighting, you hear people shouting corruption, they are anti-corruption crusaders. They have interest in the Office of Special Prosecutor. Today, if we audit the office and find out relations, etc., look, you run, then you see that we'll forget about this fight, right? Because some have a vested interest. But well, until we do the audit, let them speak, except that maybe they should disclose that interest that they have. Those who have had relations, employed sons, daughters, brothers, nephews, etc. And those who ride on the Office of Special Prosecutor to get funding. Yes, because they're able to boast that we are official partners, etc. So it's not a clean fight. It's a fight for some people's stomachs. Yeah, it's survivor. That's what this game is about. Those, the CSUs. Some is survivor because they are not sure how the new special prosecutor will come in. Because remember, I have a pending petition for the removal of Kisi Jabe for a lot of the conflict of interest, for a lot of the corruption he's involved in.
So you have put in a petition to the president.
Yes, I'm not disclosing the details, but at least I'm saying that I have put in a petition.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. But here's
I must commend the South African authorities for how they have responded. Since placing a direct call to the South African Foreign Minister, my good friend and brother, Foreign Minister Lamola, they have taken steps. They empathize, express regret, apologize, and promised investigations. They have since taken steps. Yesterday, the Ministry of Police in South Africa issued a formal statement to
which we have a copy of
to condemn the xenophobic attacks and to assure us that everything will be done to protect our nationals in their country. And they deployed the xenophobia, which continues to be exhibited.
And that's why the concern is that every time when this happens, first, since 2008, we started tracking when this whole xenophobic attack started. Every time it happens, there's official apology and then official condemnation. But then every year it continues to happen. So the concern is that even though officialdom would acknowledge and apologize, and as has happened this time around again, they have reached out to the government of Ghana through you to apologize to us about what happened. That ends it. These people are not brought to book, arrested, to serve as a deterrent to others, so that if next year somebody is thinking about another xenophobic attack, the arrest and the kind of treatment given to such persons who take the law into their own hands will deter them. But beyond the apology and acknowledgement of wrong, not much is done. Would you agree? Is it not?
You make a very fair point, and I'm on all fours with you. And that's why when I summoned the Acting High Commissioner of South Africa to Ghana on Thursday, I made clear that Ghana demands swift investigations. The investigations they have promised, they have to be swift, and we demand sanctions to serve as adequate deterrence. We do not want a situation where these consistent xenophobic attacks continue with impunity, and our nationals and other Africans, continue to bear the brunt, become victims. You've seen the very depressing videos of physical assault, violence, people being attacked, some years ago, people were bent, shops were looted. You now have a situation where even hospitals are raided. The sick are not even spared. No compassion, no humanity. If you are a South African in this hospital, you can stay, but all other Africans leave. And And you see, when you listen to the lady, it's clear that she has no appreciation of history.
To some property also being destroyed as a result of that particular explosion. And this is just for the first quarter of this year, between January and March. And that's why this is a big issue, and why the National Petroleum Authority is seeking some interventions as well and some support from the Ghana Police Service in dealing with this particular issue. Now, this is one that has attracted some reactions as well regarding especially what the process and the approach should be. Richard Komado is a security consultant. He's joining us on Zoom right now. And as I indicated, this is both a criminal matter and then also a safety issue. So, Mr. Komado, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, I want to find out from you, I mean, this is an incident, or these incidents of people rushing to the accident scene when a fuel tanker is involved in an accident, they go there to siphon fuel. We've seen it happen over the years. And then there's been explosions in some instances, people die. But it's not a deterrent to people whenever there's an accident. We see the videos as well. So first off, I want to find out from you how this strikes you. The NPA CEO giving this indication of their collaboration with the police to deal with this matter.
No, I think it's a bit worrying, and it has always been worrying, especially when the explosions happen and people die unnecessarily. What we need to do, number one, is public education is key, and I was happy to hear the NPA chief executive speaking to that effect. The other thing he said, which is also true and which is very important, is to ensure that the police prosecute people who have formed gangs along the Accra-Kumasi road predominantly, and they mobilize people to engage in this particular activity without taking care of their people's safety. Public safety is very much important. The third thing I said we needed to do is to have a national response team that is very responsive and that is very proactive. In that regard, they should be able to provide public education throughout the whole year, educating the general public the dangers of getting closer to fuel tankers, whether they are spoiled or they are burning into flames, and people want to take advantage of the scene. You might get hurt, and you might get burned, and you might not get the fuel.
But you see, here's where the other challenges, and in this collaboration that Gordon Tamaklo talks about, from your security perspective, in what form should this take, right? Based on the events in the past, the precedents we've seen, and at least what's happened in the first quarter. Yes, it's a safety, largely a safety issue. The appeal to people not to go to these accident scenes when there's a fuel tanker involved doesn't seem to be working, because people risk their lives, go there, despite previous incidents of the tanker exploding and people losing their lives. So in what form should this collaboration with the police take?
No, I think the police will need to work closely with the NADMO and the fire service, who become the first responders when it comes to many of these incidents. But one of the things we are also not doing properly is to coordinate activities of the tanker drivers who travel the length and breadth of this country, carrying fuel and other inflammable substances. Normally, it becomes a reactive approach instead of being responsive. If the police officer or a NADMO officer or a fire service officer can have an alert that a particular tanker has got into some level of difficulties and it may lead to explosion, the distance between where the fire service handler is and where the nearest police station is, it shouldn't be a problem for us. We have also noticed the key route from here to Kumasi to Tamale, to Cape Coast, to Takrade, to Ho, to Ofori. We can benchmark these routes in line with proper public safety guidelines and make sure that we have strategic zones and locations which pick up the red flags in terms of stoppage and in terms of wreckage and in terms of normal or natural force on these tankers. It makes life easier for everybody, rather than waiting for them to get into difficulties when the crowd gathered before we begin to react. That level of activity might lead to some level of agitations from people who are naturally ignorant and they want to take advantage of the situation, even though their public safety might be at risk.
I see, and then finally, and before I let you go, what we're saying is that even in instances where there's these accidents, NADMO arrives, or the fire service also arrives within a certain period. But before they do, these residents in and around the accident scene would have thronged the area, gone to do whatever they have to do. So response time also fits into whether this collaboration is going to be effective, is it not?
Definitely, yes. The response time, if we want to measure the effectiveness of the first responders, particularly the National Disaster Response Team, response time is very key, and how effective they have been when they got to the scene and who get to the scene first time, they are all key points. If it is NADMO, how many minutes did it take them to release the information to National Fire Service or the police in that regard? Particularly the tanker owners and NPA, who is a regulator in that regard. Because we are just not talking about tankers getting hacked in the road and people getting involved to siphon fuel. It could also be a criminal activity along those roads to target particular tankers to be able to take the fuel out of them and to help the drivers. To the extent that we know the route, we will need to coordinate it in such a manner that the first responders, particularly the three agencies, the police, the fire service, and NADMO, will work hand in hand in such a manner that
Nyankopon on show bibia ojebre ehwedwumedie we yedo bibia se hanom Ghana politics avenue so muso mfuguru aba politics dia obi ani ani chebi obi ni enkebi mo amunim yede authentic and as legit news nko ene bremo medo bibia ojebre ehwedwumedie we ase na se wo wonsenka ibi so fa comment section no Ghana politics edwumako ebe kan mo ho abom na de wonti ase bia no o ma church wase na so unlike so ama we mfimeshro so be like obe share ama onnuanom onamfofo ensa enso ento akabi medi bo besia makram